Hey lovies, welcome back to another episode of Witchy Wednesday. And today I'm so excited to share the new edition of Pagan Tarot. I'm telling you guys, this deck has to be not even top 10, top 5 decks for me of all time. So when I knew that they were coming out with new editions, there were some things that I didn't like from the first edition, so we'll go through that. But if you are a beginner witch, you practice a pagan type of lifestyle, spirituality, you're interested in getting into a coven, and you just don't really relate to those collage or like super out there artsy decks. I love them. I'm not saying that I don't, and I definitely use them a lot, but this is a super modern, super relatable deck that I think you're absolutely going to love. So in this first video, I'm going to, because I really want to give this deck a walkthrough, because the witch's story in this tarot deck is so special, and it's, again, so relatable. So I'm going to go this first video over the major arcana, so we can go through each card one by one. I'm going to first look at the boxes, look at the book, look at the cards. How does it differ from the first edition to the new edition? And then next week, we'll jump right into the minors and kind of do an overview of that. But I really think these cards are so juicy, you're going to want to just have a designated video for the major arcana. Okay, again, so I'm going to review the first one to the new edition and see how it compares, see how it's different. Is it better? Let's find out. So this is the first one that I've gotten. This I purchased, I want to say maybe 2 years ago. So already you can see that the artwork is different. These are the sides of the boxes. So they are the same, from the same publisher, Lo Scarabeo. This is the old one. This is a new one. All right, so I'm going to just open up this older one. I kept this card here so I can show you the card differences, because there is a difference. Simple box with a tuck space for your cards. And it's the same on this side. A really nice box that has like a magnetic closure. Super sturdy, and it again comes with the book and the tuck spot for the cards. So let's take a look at these books. The books are the same size. Let's just look at the page numbers here. So this one is 159. It ends at 159. This new one, 160. So I'm pretty sure. Let's look at these two together. I'm going to just put these aside. Now, just flipping, this has a lot of notes and highlights because I really dug deep into this tarot deck. Again, I'm telling you, it's one of my favorite ones. So if you just look at the first few pages here, we have an introduction. I'm not going to go through that introduction with you. I just want to look at the spreads. Okay, so here we get to the spreads. And let's look at here. Right off the bat, the paper is really nice. Like, this is, the old one is a typical paper that you would get from a book. And this one has like a glossy, really nice feel to the paper. So there is an improvement already from the paper of the book. Okay, so here we go. Meditation spread, the 3-card spread. They're the same on both books. I'm going to flip the page. Wicca's cross, and I cut out here, I think it's the moon. Yeah, the new moon spread. So it looks like they are the same spreads from the old one to the new one. So I'm going to just continue going and start with the majors. She gives you a blurb on both books about what the majors mean and what they represent in tarot. And then here is the differences between the old layout and the new layout. So again, here you can see like the image, color, the quality of the new edition is vastly, vastly better than the original image here. So the colors are super vibrant. It's just really, really nice to study with this. And I really love the layout of the words. So let's just look at our first paragraph here. Our witch finds herself blindfold. Although she has no idea where she is walking, she steps with confidence. That's the new edition. And the old one, our witch finds herself blindfold. Although she has no idea where she's walking, she steps forth with confidence. So it looks like they have the same exact text and pictures, obviously, from the new edition to the old. So, and to be honest, it's kind of a little bit of a disappointment, because even though we have the same pictures and the meanings are still the same, I would have loved at least some sort of addition to the paragraph that they give you, to the information. And if they can't do that, at least give us some updated spreads. Because if you're a person like me who already has the first edition and wants to make that investment for the new one, there is some at least new information and new spreads that you can do instead of having the old ones. So it looks like it's all the same information. I believe all the cards are the same. There's no updates to the cards. Let's look at the minors and how they're set up here. So here is a Two of Wands, and here I'll do this. And here is a Two of Wands. So again, the text, it's a lot easier to read on the new edition, but the older edition, the picture is actually bigger. So it's nicer to see more of the details in this picture. I'm not too sure why they minimized it when they have so much space, but at least the reading is a lot better in this one in comparison to this one. So that is the book. Unfortunately, there's no changes in the book. There's no changes in the spreads and any of the information that you get from the major and the minor cards. And that's okay. It's not terrible, because what I got the new edition for is because I know that the cards are now borderless. And that to me it wasn't even a question. I was getting this deck. Okay, so let's take a look at the cards. I'm so excited. All right, so before I open this, I'm going to just really give you a look at what I've been dealing with, okay? So this was the original card. This is what it's been cut down to. The reason why it's cut down this way is because, and this is just for a sizing, I'm gonna leave a picture up here. Los Scarabeo with this deck had so many different languages on the bottom. You can see here, the bottom of this Ace of Cups, there's like maybe four, yeah, I believe 4 languages. And when you have a spread and you're trying to do a reading, it just clouded the reading. And it would just break my concentration, because it's just, the image looks so much better when it's just cropped like this. So there's a big difference in the card size when you remove the border and you remove all of the languages in the bottom. So this is how I started with my tarot deck. I cut them all down, and my intention was to gild the edges brown like this. So I never finished, but that's kind of how my current deck looks like. Now, with this new one, I think maybe that was a super common complaint about the first edition, and they finally made this deck borderless without all of the thick white borders and the languages. And it looks like they updated their backs. Oh, and this is like a nice shiny cardstock in comparison to the matte. I like matte. It shuffles like a dream, but this deck, I absolutely don't mind that it's shiny at all. This is beautiful. I love, love, love this. The only thing with this is if you read reversals, you would be able to tell. Obviously, with this one, you wouldn't. I don't read reversals, so that's fine by me, but let's look at the difference between when I cut the borders off and the languages to this new card. Big difference. So unboxing this, I can see already that these cards are stuck together, and that could be just because of the gloss, but I really have to pry these apart. And that's no bueno. That's no good. That's already a negative in my book when it comes to the new edition. I mean, they are stuck together. You can hear. No good. So I hope that doesn't ruin the images on the front, but let's just see. Okay, guys, so I brought you in a little bit closer so you can see the card's details and all of the characteristics. So I wanted to just go over a few of the first cards from the new edition to the last one. Again, this image in this card is smaller because I have cut off the border and all of the other languages in the bottom. So you can see right off the bat, because the new edition is borderless, it just makes the image pop. And it's just so much better, and it's such a delight to have it this much larger. And I love how they kept the title to darker colors and not light, because again, it was very distracting when you're having this white, especially against darker cards when a spread is spread out. So again, even with the glossiness compared to the matte, the colors are definitely more vivid. I'm not too sure if that comes across in the camera, but this is just, the colors and the details really pop in comparison to the first edition. However, I will say, because since this glossy, it's just a fingerprint magnet. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just, I'm not really loving that too much. And especially if you have oily skin already, it's going to show. Let me try to see if I can get that. Yeah, I think you can see it, but that's the only thing. With matte, you won't ever have to worry about that. But is that a trade-off for vibrant colors? Maybe. So it's up to you, you know? So let's just look at the cards themselves. So these are the full cards. Old edition to the new edition. Oh, you can really see in the trees here in the sky, there's a really nice difference in color there and saturation from having the glossy cards. And the last one I'll just go over is the High Priestess card. So yeah, again, a lot of these cards are on the darker tone, so it's really was smart of them to do the darker text space here. And I really love the font change too. That's pretty nice. All right, so let's get started with the major cards. Okay, we're gonna start with the 21 major Arcana cards. Before I begin, I just wanna let you know the theme of this deck again. If you are not practicing a pagan tradition, if you are not really considering covenantship, this could work if you were practicing solitary, but really if you were like a Christian witch or just on your own as an eclectic, I really don't think this deck is for you. The reason why this deck really hits home for me is because when I was really starting to get my feet wet into becoming into a coven and really honing in and being very serious about my pagan work, like almost every single card, especially in the majors, it really, really resonates with you. And it's very relatable if you are trying to take your spirituality and take your practice to the next level. So I say this because when I start going through the walkthrough and explaining the cards, there's a lot that anyone can really gather from this on their own life, especially because it's so modern. So the first card that we have is the Fool. And I really love this depiction of the Fool because it's really vast, right? I shouldn't say never, but I couldn't really jive with the Rider-Waite-Smith Fool, where he has his stick with his clothing and is kind of like a step off the mountain. I never really got that because this is not dangerous. And it shouldn't be, it's a fool's journey. This is our witch. This could be you. This could be me. It's her journey through her practice. So I take the fool as just not experienced and not so much foolish, if that makes sense. Our witch here is unexperienced. So her being in the universe is just vast possibilities. And the fact that the stars are under her feet and she's barefoot, it really, to me, tells me that the stars are aligned and they're guiding her, right? And her arms are outstretched to kind of grab any knowledge and any experience and anything that's can come her way and learn from it. So it's not really a foolish thing. This is the perfect card for a beginner witch to, maybe this is how you feel, where it's just empty, you're unexperienced, but you're ready to take it on. The first card, the Magician. Really love this depiction of the Magician. So here, just like any Rider-Waite-Smith style, and you'll see a lot of that here, is that she has all of her instruments. She has her pentagram. She has all of the elements. Her wand is back here, her cups, her sword, and her book. So the Magician, she's doing the same as a typical deck. She's practicing the as above, so below practice. So she has the moon there and she's kind of drawing down the moon. That's exactly what she's doing here. She's doing a ritual called drawing down the moon, whereas she has, and she wants to get the energy, and she could definitely get the energy with the tools that are given to her in this picture. Second, we come here is to the High Priestess. So you see the witch here, she's observing this ritual here, and here is your High Priestess of the coven. And if you look a little bit deeper, you'll see the Hakin and Boaz symbology here. So in a Rider-Waite-Smith, you have the High Priestess in the middle of the black and white pillars. There are no pillars here, but you can see in the top of the card that the colors dictate that for you. You have a blacker side and you have a lighter side, and you still have the High Priestess there in the middle. And what they're doing is they're calling out to the goddess. They're doing a simple ritual here to get the knowledge from the goddess within, and that's all High Priestess energy. So the High Priestess here, she's sharing her knowledge with her coven while being guided by the goddess here and the moon energy. Just a beautiful card. Beautiful, beautiful card that maybe you one day will be in the situation. 3, the Empress. I really love how this card is depicted because you still get the Empress here that is surrounded by flowers, very Rider-Waite-Smith. And here there are 3 characters here. So this is your witch. This is what she mainly looks like throughout the entire deck. This is her daughter, and this is her grandmother. So the Empress really is that nurturing, that showing the circle of life. And it's funny because even though they are gardening, it's really showing 2 ways of the circle of life. You have the human circle of life, whereas her grandmother herself and her daughter, whereas you see the plants, they're planting, it becomes seeds and it becomes flowers, as you see by the goddess statue. It's just beautiful. It's just like really hits home to, you know, having your family be involved in your practice, and if they are not willing to really go to rituals with you and kind of support you that way, you can always do something like this that's super mundane, bringing it into your magical practice. Okay, the next card is the Emperor, and this is, I just love this card because here you have the witch, and she is in her street clothes, and there's other members who are also in their street clothes, but who are not in their street clothes are already in robe is the High Priest and the High Priestess. So here the Emperor is really valuing the Emperor here, whereas he's not in his position through power. He's in his position through knowledge. And that's what this describes here, is that your witch, she's using the Emperor energy to gain knowledge. The next card is the Hierophant. And boy, does this hit home. This really hits home. So here you have your witch here, and she's covering her pentacle because she's at a church type environment where there's a fire going on. And the priest, I would assume is Catholic or any type of other religion like that, is kind of encouraging that these people are burning either books or music or CDs or anything like that. And she's pretty much shameful. So this really tells you that, you know, this card is meant to depict that there's really no one way for spirituality. There's no one answer for religion. And it really brings in that dogma type energy. The Lovers has to be probably one of my favorite cards in the entire deck. So again, so relatable. So she is robed and she is ready for ritual, but she has her coven family on one side of the fork and her family going up to her home in one side of the fork. And here it talks about duality, balance, right? You have your coven family and you also have your family. And there's points where you have to decide which way you go. And how will that affect you? These are the answers that when this card pulls up on a spread, it's about making a choice and making sure that that choice is balanced in your life. The Chariot is so good. And I love this picture. So again, totally relatable. How many times have we had the idea and the desire and just the efforts of doing something, right? Like our witch here, she has her bags packed. She has, you know, a trunk on top of her car. She is already destined to go somewhere, but her car broke down. So you have other people trying to help her. But the Chariot explains no matter how much you have a set plan in mind, if that plan is not ready to become into fruition, it's not going to work, just like a car. So she may be wanting to go somewhere, but if you don't have a balance in your life, just like the Lovers, or the time is just not right, you're not going anywhere. And they also show a really good depiction of that in the RWS deck too, because the Chariot is very common to see the Chariot, right? And it's very powerful, but you have the black and the white horse and they're running in separate directions. So that Chariot is not really going to get anywhere until you get those two horses to run the same way. And that's exactly what you have here. So just like any mundane situation, if this card comes up in your spread, you might want to ask yourself, okay, I'm ready to do this, but what is holding me back? What do I need to work on first before I'm ready to make the move? Next card is Strength. And what a beautiful card this is, right? This kind of is like the epitome of just witchcraft or paganism or anything like that. It's just she has so much strength, and I don't mean brute strength. I mean the strength that you are in complete oneness with yourself. You know yourself, and the animals are so attracted, and the earth is like beneath her feet is so green and lush, because really this is when you think about divinity or any of the divine, it's like being one, you know? So that's what this Strength card comes off to me. So when I see this in a spread, I know that really I have to dig deep and be completely comfortable in who I am, because that's when the inner strength will come out. The Hermit just happens to be my birth card, and oh, does this just hit home for many witches. We love our books, we love studying, and just this is perfect. It's just absolutely perfect. So you have a blind woman here, and it's almost like you just have a vast want for knowledge, right? And as many people say, if you are a witch and you're studying paganism or witchcraft, you are always a student. You will never have the answers to everything. You will never know everything. It's a constant learn. It's a constant being a student. And this really is just embodies a lot of the witches in us, where it's just study, 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 and you want to have fun with it, but at the end of the day, it's a very serious thing, and all of the information, it's coming from what you've learned. Next one is a wheel, where she's at work, but I love how if you didn't know any better, you would think that this is a pie, but it's not. It's an astrological wheel, which is pretty funny because this is the wheel. So I love this card because when it comes out in a spread, it really tells you that because of the nature of a wheel, if something doesn't really go as planned, you always have a chance for it to come back around. You know, so if you've been having either awful luck, or you just wanted something, or casted a spell or did affirmations and you just didn't get the result that you wanted, when this comes around, it's a really positive thing because there's always another chance and there's always another way to get the things that you want. Justice. So if you look a little bit deeper in here, I know a lot of people, they see the Justice and they see like these balancing things here, but this card is just so much more than that, especially in Justice and paganism. It's so much more than just these weights here. If you look deeper into the card, she's reading from the law threefold and return. So that means whatever you put out into the energy, you have to be willing, positive or negative, to get it back threefold. So here, it shows you that she's practicing that, but if you look closely here, there's like a small pot there, and the plant is looking like it's drooping and it's looking like it's overgrown. So here, if you're planting something, that is your intention. But the real lesson here is that if you set an intention and you don't do anything with it, it's going to come back to you threefold. So if you plant this plant and you don't take care of it, it's going to either overgrow, it's going to die, it's going to take over. And that's the three of planting this with no follow-up. So if there's anything in justice, it's talking about that karmic energy, whereas whatever you set out, be prepared to get it threefold. The Hanged Man. Ooh, wowie, wowie. So here we have our witch, and she's getting initiated into a coven. And getting initiated into a coven is really probably one of the best and purest moments, of your life. But, however, just like the Hangman and the RWS deck, when you're hanging upside down, you see the world differently, right? And that is the main point of the Hangman, to really look at other options of how you're seeing things. As you are initiated into the coven, not seeing things differently, but it's almost like you're letting go of a part of yourself that is no longer exists, right? So when you take off the blindfold and you meet your coven mates, it's almost like a birth of a new person. And that's why I love this depiction so much, because here it really tells you that it's almost like you're leaving the mundane and you're joining something spiritual, and you're seeing the world through different eyes. So after the Hanged Man, to me, I feel that the deck, especially the majors, take a very serious turn. And it's so interesting. So look where we have come from: the Fool, learning about herself, learning about the coven, joining the meetings, meeting the Emperor, getting into challenges from the Chariot. Now you've been initiated into the coven, right, with the Hanged Man. And things sort of take a turn because it's serious. To us and to a lot of practicing witches, this is a lifestyle. It's very serious. So we see that she's getting initiated into the coven. I'm going to leave this here because the story is just so beautiful, right? So here she's initiated to the coven, and then, like I said before, when the blindfolds come off, there's a transformation, right? This is a death card. There's a transformation. But see here, there's a stick with a cocoon in it. And it's not cut off on accident and given to her by accident. It's the whole point of transformation, becoming someone new, becoming someone enlightened. But when it comes to death, the death is representing who you were as to who you are going to be. And for many, it's very scary. You know, to many witches, especially in the coven or other people that I meet, they've grown up Jewish or they've grown up Catholic. And to really let go of the person that you once were spiritually is truly a death. And what comes with that is vulnerability, and sometimes you feel alone until you keep practicing and you keep reading and you keep studying. And that's why I love being part of a group, because you feel the energy. You are one with a bunch of like-minded people. But that's what the death represents here. They're with their coven mate, and she officially becomes part of the coven with the death of her old self and the birth of her new self. Now, Temperance, the balance. And boy, is it hard, you know, when in your mind, you know that spiritual beings, like, you know, even you don't have to be spiritual, know that, like, life is just not about working, right? I feel like we're just put on this planet for so many better things than spending 9 to 5, 7, 5 days a week on just mundane work, right? So here you see the our witch here. She has a statue of the goddess, and she's kind of doing like an infinity symbol, you know, and maybe she's using her practice to help her in some issues at work. So, you know, when this card comes up on your spread, you might want to ask yourself, really, am I balancing my mundane and my spirituality? Now that she's in a coven, now that it's serious, and I'm pretty sure she's given daily work and responsibilities to do, how can she balance that with work life? The Devil. Okay, here we go. So this one is really a hard pill to swallow when it comes to this deck, right? Because very much like our younger generation now, it's just the idea of just fitting in, and all the social media and belonging to something is really, it's really just it's really damaging, right? So here we find our witch, and you have the candles here, you have roses here, and what she's doing is that she has coven members who are telling her to possibly write a spell, a love spell, but it's kind of something that she doesn't want to do. But she goes ahead and does it anyway. And here is your grandmother and her daughter here, kind of like on her shoulder, telling her, like, maybe this might not be the best thing to do, but she really just can't help herself because she has the temptation and she has the want to fit in. And sometimes when you leave something, or you leave another addiction or a temptation, or you leave one trap, you open up another one. And that's what this card depicts, is that, you know, our witch here is suffering from things that she doesn't want to do to fit in. And that itself is, it could be a drug, it could be just something that the Devil card really represents. It's up to her, just like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. If you look at the two beings that are tied from the Devil, their chains are loose. They can come out of that at any time and be free, but they choose not to. So with her is that even though she's getting the attention and her coven mates are peer pressuring her to do something, you really have to look at the Devil and say, listen, you're your own person. I don't have to do this. And that's how you fight this card when it comes into a spread. So I'll leave this here, because here the card is taking a really dark turn into what could possibly be going on in your coven. I belong to a coven, but that doesn't mean that every coven does the right things. So here the Tower card is really, even in Rider-Waite-Smith, when you see that crash to the tower and you have people falling out, it's really a card when you see it in the spread that it's take heed. Take heed and really come to your own decisions. So here, the Tower card, our witch that is now in a coven, she sees her high priestess and high priest really use their sexuality and other things for their own personal gain. And in that very moment, she's noticed that the coven is either flawed or it's just not really what she wanted. So again, you know, when this card comes in your spread, you really want to take a look at this and say, okay, what has happened in my life that I don't agree with? And has it caused like chaotic effects? If it has, how are you going to deal with that? Actually, the next few cards, I'm just going to leave them out because this is just, you guys, this deck is just so beautiful. And I'm sorry if it's going to be a long one. I should have told you guys to just grab like a snack and a coffee and chill, but I really want to give this deck its due time because it's just pure perfection. So after seeing her coven and really seeing that it's really a flawed coven, she meets the star. And the star here is a beautiful depiction of the goddess, and it's almost kind of touching the ground too. But you see that it's leading up, you know, away and into the light. And the star really, in Rider-Waite-Smith and this deck, it's really about getting your guidance through the cosmos, right? Getting your guidance through the stars above and getting that energy, getting that lunar energy, and just really never giving up on what you think is right. Beautiful, beautiful card. So when she comes across here, I think that's what happens. This could be a completely different location. It looks like she's wearing a different robe, but to me, it's just this pattern of cards. She comes around and then she sits, and again, drawing down the moon, drawing that energy. And it could be fearful. At this point, she could be fearful and really apprehensive of what the future holds. And just as she's fearful, look at the lobster. He's out of the water. That's fearful as well too, because they mostly live in water. So you're starting to get the elements to help you out here. This is once we get to the minors, you'll see that this is a very elemental deck too. So here, the moon is powerful. She's giving that full moon energy. And we know, or if you don't, when you have that full moon energy, full moons are all about forgiveness. So look at what the witch has gone through after she's been initiated. She's been told to do things that she hasn't wanted to do. She saw her high priest and high priestess do things that she didn't really value. She took into the stars to give her guidance. And now it's all about forgiveness with the full moon. Beautiful, just beautiful. If that doesn't just make you want to run out and get this deck now, I don't know what will. Okay, so only a few cards left, and then we'll break it from there. And then I'll see you guys next week for the minors. So hope I'm doing okay. Hope I'm making sense. If you guys have any questions, I love responding to my new subscribers who are beginning witches. They have a lot of questions. I love, having our own little community where we can talk about these things. So leave me some love, leave me a question, comment below. So the next card that we have is the Sun. So, this girl has been through it, and look how dark she is. I love this. So I love this card because it got heavy. I told you after she gets initiated into the coven, the cards just take a turn. But now is that break for the Sun, right? And that's why the Sun was so important for our last Sabbath and in bulk, because it's starting to get warmer and the seeds are starting to grow and your childlike emotions are starting to come through. So when you see the Sun here and she's playing, the kids are playing with the sand castle and she's kind of like gazing out and drawing a pentagram in the sand. It's all very innocent and childlike behavior. Judgment. Judgment's a great card. Again, just like Justice, where it is the cosmic balance, right? And whatever you reap, reward, reap, you have to be willing to deal with the judgment. So here, there's a depiction of like soldiers getting hung, her past ancestors on the other side about to get burned at the stake. You know, so this card, it really shows what you do, and what you do now has effects later on, and it will be judged later on. And the things that you do can even affect those in your next line. So just like this ancestor, maybe the things that she's done to have her in the situation may have affected our witch now. So the things that you do also, again, just like the Justice card, you do things with threefold law, and you do things to make sure that you have cosmic balance in your life. And the Universe. So here our witch, in the last card, the Universe, is really now in tune with herself. She's let go of all of the pain. She's forgiven on the Moon card. And now she meets a man who is not really helping her. It may seem like he's helping her in this card, but he really isn't. Them two together are really controlling the elements, right? So you have these elemental beings. I won't get into it too much. We'll do it next week when we do the minors. But here she is surrounded by the elements, and also physically surrounded by the elements. So they are standing on rock, surrounded by water. You can see the air and the smoke beneath. But this is a beautiful, beautiful card. Because when you become this comfortable and this confident in your practice, where you can work with the elements and you can really use that power, there's really no stopping you at this point. You know, you've really become an enlightened person, and that's really the goal of, at least in my practice. So yeah, there you go. So that's all the 21 cards of the Pagan Tarot. Oh my God, you guys, like how delicious was that? So I hope you liked my video on this. Stay tuned for next week again as we go through the minors. Thank you so much, you guys, for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.